Welcome to another day of How to ABL. Today is 10/16/2023 and it is shock season. Today is Villain Alien Day, and I'm going to be using Thanos at a tier 3 because I didn't have him at a tier 4 with the Wise Harvester uniform using a Rage. His rotation is super simple. He does 5, 3, 4. Then you do 2, 1 as a filler, and you kind of rinse and repeat. You use your 6 in between every other rotation. Now with the 6, you're basically just waiting until he draws his hand back and it starts to go forward. You can cancel his 6. Everything else, you're letting your 4 play out and you're letting your 1 play out. So let me go ahead and show you how that looks, and if you want to stick around later, I will give you additional details like the team I'm building and why, and what other alternate options you might use for today. As always with a lot of these videos, I'm starting to make the disclaimer, just letting you know there are different ways to play these characters, experiment with different rotations, find out what works for you. I'm just sharing the one that works for me. So with Thanos 2 specifically, he cannot use a Judgment. It's going to be Rage or an Anger proc. He could also use an Energy because his procs seem pretty consistent. They usually procs on his 4, and because it's a pretty straightforward path on how he does his things, you could try an Energy on him. I think it's a little bit trickier, but he is proc friendly. So you don't necessarily have to use an Anger proc. You could just use a normal proc too. 200% preferably. So there you go. You can use Rage, you can use Energy, you can use Anger procs, you can use normal procs. Yeah, whatever you want. Just get this procs in there if you want to score the most. And tier 4 them. Okay. Without further ado, let me go ahead and show you this in action, and then, like I said, I'll give you additional details afterwards if you want to stick around. So, where were we? Let's see. 5, 3, 4, 2, 1. Let's go. Pick up the orb. 5, 3, 4. Let 4 play out. There's the proc. And then you're going to do 2 and then 1. He does this little spin, slams the staff down, move around. 5, 3, 4. I guess I don't have my orb right away. 2, 1. Alright, so now we're going to do the 6, draws back, 5, 3, 4. There you go. That's basically how he's used. And as you can see, he can cancel on his 4, so you can do your normal rotation when he jumps center. I'm going to wait until he lifts up his sword, and then I'm going to do the rotation here, let it play out, and the shock will come in and do the cancel. There you go. So I guess it's every 2 rotations he can use his 6. That's okay. He still does pretty good damage. And like I said, if you can tier 4 him, he does way more. I have like 13 tier 4 characters and I run out of materials. So I kind of do what I have to do with what resources are available to me. Draw back, go forward, boom. And as you can see, he's still proccing on his 4 even when I use my 6, as long as you cancel it at the right time and you don't wait too long. I'm actually going to pick up the orb first before I go into the rotation. Some people advise that it's better to wait on a rotation just to pick up and get the Oathen Force. I guess that's kind of debatable depending on how long you're waiting for, right? I mean, if you can't slip 2 rotations in amplified, then does it really matter? Again, experiment. I usually don't wait. I like to pick up the orbs right away. That's just me. But again, you play you. You do how you want to play. Oh, cool. The orb landed right on me. I love when that happens. When you don't got to run around and try to find that orb, it's amazing. And remember, getting attacked in this game mode does make a difference. You lose points whenever you get attacked. So if you can avoid getting attacked, all the better. Alright. I'm still going to try to get this 2 and 1 in here just to charge up my skill. So as soon as he lifts his sword, I can go ahead and go into my rotation. Some characters you have to wait on. Make sure that the sword's raised. Others you don't want to wait. You want to do it right away as soon as they're targetable or you lose score. And I honestly am starting to forget, because I don't play Thanos a lot, he doesn't have a lot of days, whether or not you can do the 4 right when he's targetable. So something to keep in mind, maybe look that up, get other players' opinions to see if you can still cancel if you use your rotation right away and don't wait on it. Because I'm starting to think that shock still comes in towards the end. I don't know. I don't think he's one of the characters that needs to wait. I could be wrong. Alright, you're probably already looking at the score. Man, that's a horrible score because he's at tier 3. Tier 3 makes a difference, but the alternatives for today, trust me, this is the way to go. And man, that was a late proc there. Ouch. That was a very late proc. ABL is a endgame type of a deal, so you definitely want to have tier 4 high-level characters well built. My Thanos has always been built for PvP. Doesn't have a great build. Anyway, 422091. 4 million is the best I can do out of all the characters on my team. And if you have a tier 4 Thanos, like I said, I still consider him to be meta for today. So writing down my score, let's talk about cards first. As always with ABL, Pierce is the most important stat. Well, not necessarily the most important, but very important because of all the defenses and stuff. You want to be able to pierce through that, so you definitely want Pierce. So here's my cards. I'm at 16% Pierce. I need better cards. I will get them over time. I've made some bad choices and got some bad rolls. Here are my X swords. Always show this just so you know. You can pause it on the screen if you want. I think it's important to know how someone's account's built. So if they're making suggestions or you're getting information, you're like, oh, well, why is my account scoring this and they're scoring that? Well, now you know this is how my account's built. Thanos. Yeah, he's ranked 11,000. I've got all the important stuff capped here. But he just doesn't have a very good build. As you can see, I've got a lot of hit point stuff on him. I only have 3 Odin's Blessings, and they're all hit point ones because, again, I was giving him that big hit point pull specifically for PvP. And with this uniform, it's like he's not meta in PvP anymore, so I got the Wise Harvester, which is meta for PvE. Overdrive, honestly, any attack set's fine. He does have his own artifact. It's not an instinct match. Instinct seems to play more of a factor when you are tier 4 than it does when you're not. But as you can see here, there's a lot of stuff that he gets, like increased critical rate, critical damage, ignore target's dodge. Nothing super special, nothing needed, in my opinion. He has a normal basic rage. It's at 0.9%. And his uniform is mythic. So there you go. Nothing super, nothing to write home about, nothing wow. Let's talk about the team I'm using, why I'm using it, and alternate options and things to consider when you are trying to do ABL for today. So first of all, he has a self-leadership, so just leave him in that leadership position. Enchantress has a War of Realms uniform. The War of Realms uniform has a uniform effect, and this is what you want. Without the uniform, don't even bother putting her on the team. Supervillains, which would be Thanos, gets increase all basic attacks by 20, and my favorite skill in the game, which is damage dealt by 40%. Over here on Proxima, likewise, you need the uniform, but if you go to uniform effects, she is also giving supervillains damage dealt, so she gives 35% for supervillains, so right around 75% damage dealt increase by having the two of them on the team with a self-leadership. Not too shabby. There are some other subtleties. I mean, Null has his own self-lead, but he's not very good for today. And you could use Hela's leadership, which is a 60%, but again, he's a self-lead, no reason to. And then technically, there is this passive on Ebony Maul on his uniform. I don't really see it doing a lot, but all allies increases damage dealt to universal types. And I'm not sure if the Beast and Surtur are considered universal or not. So I don't know how much of a difference it makes, even though it's damage dealt. I've tried with and without him on different teams, and it doesn't really seem like it increases that much, so I actually don't think it actually affects the Beast. I think they're considered typeless, it seems like, based upon having him on a team and off a team, so I think that's for different game modes, personally. If you don't have Thanos, who else can you use? Loki. Loki, with his TVA suit and a Rage. I have a Mighty Rage on him. I probably need to pull it off and put it on Thanos because he's just not meta anymore. Ooh, 160 is horrible. But yeah, I've been using Loki until I got Thanos' Wise Harvester. I was getting about 2 million roughly to 3 million, and now we're doubling that basically with Thanos, or close to doubling that. Corvus Glaive in the past was decent. I don't think I would use him anymore, and the only other person I would consider using would be Malekith with his War of Realms uniform, but likewise, I have not seen very impressive numbers, and I haven't experimented with him too much because he just wasn't holding up with Loki. So Loki, Thanos, that's your options, in my opinion, and Malekith if you absolutely have no one else. One other shout out for a lead option is you could technically use this one here. Gives increase all basic attacks by 50% with Ronin's Marvel Studios Captain Marvel. All allies also have this ignore target's dodge rate by 20%, which I don't think makes a huge difference. But basically, Hela and Ronin would be for characters like Loki, who doesn't have their own leadership. Even with Malekith here, I would use one of them as a leader instead of, I mean, you can even use Thanos' leadership. Instead of, I would use one of their leadership instead of their own, because their own leadership, Loki doesn't really have a leadership. My mind stopped for a second. And Malekith doesn't really have a leadership per se. Now, he does have some really cool built-in skills that apply only to himself. This is why I wouldn't put him on as a support. But as you can see here, it's damage dealt to superhero faction. So that doesn't really help you too much against Surtur, the Beast, because they're villains. They're considered villains in the game. increase skill damage and stuff. So he's probably geared more towards PvP, honestly, but I haven't really used him anywhere. I'm just letting you know he does do okay damage. He just doesn't have great support and abilities. That's why usually we go with Thanos. So anyway, there's a whole bunch of additional information. Hopefully that was useful. And as always, may your ABL scores be as high as possible. I will catch you in the next one.